Welcome to Ashley on CBD, your one-stop podcast where we drop the truth on all things CBD and maybe some pop culture too. Stick around as we delve deep into the practical health benefits of CBD for you.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for listening. Today's episode, as always, is brought to you by Magic Immuna Tea, available at packedwithlife.com. What could be more important in today's world than having a strong immune system? Probably nothing. But how do you do that? Diet, exercise? Well, no kidding. But what I've recently started doing is drinking Magic Immuna Tea. Number one, it tastes great, and it's loaded with healthy nutrients called adaptogens, including 4 essential mushrooms, reishi, lion's mane, chaga, and cordyceps. No, not the magic kind, you guys. Come on. Reishi, lion's mane, chaga, and cordyceps are great for you. Highly nutritious and very adept at boosting your immune system. So give Magic Immuna Tea a try at packedwithlife.com. Hello and welcome to the show. Today's guest is Bryan Essenter. He's a registered pharmacist and from Connecticut. Really a great conversation. Bryan spent 15 years working at Walgreens, and his desire really was to help people. And so he turned his back on that and went the cannabis route, medical cannabis route, and has been in the dispensary business and consulting and helping people for the past 5 years. And it's, he's really genuine where he's coming from. So I'm excited about this conversation. We'll also be talking about drug interactions and side effects as they pertain to both of those two, CBD and to cannabis. So great episode. Hope you enjoy the show. Hello, Bryan.
How you doing, Ashley?
Good. How are you?
Doing all right, thank you.
Nice to meet you, and thank you for taking time to talk to us today.
Happy to, thank you.
So to give us a little bit of a background on yourself, Bryan, I know you're a registered pharmacist and you spent many years with, one of the big guys at Walgreens, right?
Yep, absolutely.
I guess just it would be really interesting to know, a little bit about that transition and what, what kind of led you to that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a situation where I think most pharmacists are at this point is, you get to the point where every day is the worst day of your life, and it's a pretty miserable existence. You are busy arguing with doctors and insurance companies about what's covered and what isn't and why. You're arguing with patients about, why it's taking so long and why it costs so much. And, you're usually having discussions with your corporate offices about why they're taking hours away and expecting more out of you and everything else. It wasn't what we went to school for. We weren't helping patients. We weren't really, able to do what we set out to intend to do. And, you became a machine more than you were anything else. Any patient that wanted to ask a question, you're usually, you got a phone in one ear and you're hanging around a corner trying to answer their question because you didn't have the time to devote to the patients the way that you wanted to truly help them out. So, I had looked into the program when it first started. I had sort of discussed everything with my wife, and in Connecticut, one of the great things for me personally anyway, was that they mirrored the pharmacy program. So you had to have a pharmacist as your dispensary manager in order to open. So that just really kind of opened a very narrow door for myself. But in the beginning, this was back 2014 when it passed. We were a little skeptical. We didn't know how it was going to shake out, what the national landscape was going to be, if they would come in and shut everybody down or anything too. So kind of decided to stay away for a little bit. And I had talked to a few other friends that were Walgreens employees that I worked with before that ended up managing dispensaries, and just said, listen, if anything comes up, let me know. I'm interested. I just, I wasn't ready to make the move before, but I'm sure ready now. And about maybe 6 months later, I got a phone call that there was an opportunity, and I jumped at it. I didn't know much of anything at the time. I was, pardon the pun, but very green. And it became a labor of love so fast. It was so much fun. I legitimately knew next to nothing. I mean, the differences between sativas, indicas, and hybrids were still something I was working on. So it was a bumpy road at first, but it's just so amazing how on a daily basis you have such a direct effect on patients' lives and their outcomes and their quality of life. And I legitimately get goosebumps on a daily basis. I mean, that's
Right.
what I went to school for to begin with. That's why I went to pharmacy school, was to help people and improve quality of life and everything. And you really had that taken away from you in the pharmacy world, and it was given right back to us in the medical cannabis scene. So it really is awesome. I legitimately had a patient the other day that was in a horrible car accident, had major neck and spine problems, has been in a wheelchair for about 2.5 years. Within 3 months, she's coming in with a cane, not even a walker or anything. I
Wow.
mean, those are, and I said to her, I was like, legitimately, you are the people that I speak about all the time. You're the reasons that I do this. Like, this is the goosebumps that I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. I
Right.
mean, those are the kind of people that have just been kind of, they're on all these pain meds and opiates and benzos and muscle relaxers and everything else just to help them be comfortable, but they would like to participate in their life. They're not,
Of course.
happy just being comfortable anymore. So, that for me was the opportunity, and where everything just changed, and it really became just a passion more than an actual job.
So have you had anybody in your life that's been impacted personally with cannabis positively, or just your desire to go and help people drew you into this?
Not anybody personally in my life. That was really, it was really my desire to go and help people. I mean,
Good deal.
as a college kid, I had, experimented and everything. I knew that there were medical benefits that came from it. But didn't really know much more than that. And I just knew that this was something new. This was something natural. This was not just chemicals that we're isolating and putting in our body, and just putting up with side effects just because. I mean, the safety profile, and just how people believe in it, how positive it's been, and all the stories that you hear, I just had to see for myself. And I didn't expect it to become the rest of my life, and such a passion that I really am very much an advocate for, until I got involved and realized how much it can help. And I think that was more impactful for me, for seeing other people, than it is sometimes seeing your own family members, because what they're going through. The people out in public, and I say to all of our coworkers and everything all the time, the people that you see in the dispensary, you're seeing them on their good days. The last 3 days, they may have been laid up in bed and not able to get out, not able to do this, that, the other thing. So, we have to respect that what people are going through in their own personal lives can be very different from what we see. And that's very true in the pharmacy world as well. I mean, they come in and you see them for 30 seconds and they're filling their, blood pressure meds and this and that, but you don't know what else is going on there, why they happen to be cranky today or not, or whatever the case may be. And for our patients, it's a little easier to see. There's much more chronic disease and conditions that they're dealing with. And I feel like we all kind of respect that a little bit more, of what they're going through, and they're not just a number at the counter when they're coming through.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about what you were a pharmacist, and then did you go into a dispensary to kind of learn the ropes and as behind the counter, so to speak, and then now you're acting as a consultant, a patient advocate sort of role? Or tell us a little bit more about exactly what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when I started out, I was just managing the dispensary, counseling patients, consulting with them and everything. And it was awesome. It was absolutely an unbelievable experience. I learned so much from them, and I believe at the end they were learning a lot from me as well. But sitting down and having those conversations were such an amazing part of it for me, to learn how they were being affected by the medication and everything too. But what I also learned was that, in Connecticut especially, there's a lot of patients that just want to know if this can help them. Is this something that is appropriate for me? They don't, we have to spend, typically around $150, $200 for a doctor's office visit. Plus the state requires another $100 fee just to become a part of the program. They haven't purchased any product or anything like that. It's usually
Mm-hmm.
a good, 4 to 6 week process minimum for them to even get into the dispensary. And they've spent all this money and they don't even know if it's appropriate for them. A lot of them are freaked out by, whatever stereotypes they have or stigmas that have been attached to it. And a lot of them are just worried about getting high, but their kids told them that it was better than the opiates and they don't want to be on the opiates anymore. So what I felt and what I see happening in a lot of the legalized states as well. I had gone out to Oregon for a conference out there, and I got there early. So I went to about 5 different dispensaries. I just wanted to wander around and talk to people, just kind of learn what they're doing. Everybody just like pharmacy, you practice differently on the West Coast, the East Coast, the North, the South, whatever. So I wanted to, what are you doing that we're not doing? You've been doing this longer. I found out in the first 2 dispensaries that essentially nobody's doing anything. There are nobody to counsel patients. They don't really have a lot of patients. They just have customers. That's a problem because those customers are patients. And, this is regardless of whether they're using it for whatever adult use they think they are, they're medicating. No different than you have a couple of drinks at the end of a night to calm down from a long day. That's a form of medicating. So to be able to have conversations with people on an appropriate level, and especially your patients that are having serious medical conditions, cancer, Parkinson's, MS, that are really looking for help, they need somebody to speak to, and there's not that resource out there. So I wanted to get ahead of the game in Connecticut. We haven't legalized here, but I know once that happens, you're going to lose a lot of medical professionals from the industry. And patients are going to need to have questions answered. Sorry. And right now I have the opportunity to counsel patients just if they're not getting the help they want at the dispensary. I mean, we all know that no different than a pharmacy where you go and you're just like, I don't trust the pharmacist that I'm talking to there, or whether it's a doctor or whoever, I'm there to help answer questions. I've been doing this quite a while now. I've been speaking all around and just to give a different perspective. And one of the great things is everybody's menu is online. I've talked to, patients out in California, New York, Pennsylvania, Florida, that all I need to know is what dispensary you're going to. I can go to their website and I can get you, specific products of what they actually have in stock that we can go through, dosing, we can go through strains and effects and time of day and delivery methods and all of that, and really get them a regimen. And, even have follow-up with them, oh, they don't have that anymore. What am I supposed to do now? That's probably the biggest thing. It's I can get you started, but when they go back for their next visit, those meds aren't there anymore. Or they're at a different dosing or, strength or something too. So they're like, well, now how do I do this? I don't know what to do. And they're all freaked out. And it's okay. We got this. We just need to do a little math and figure out how to adjust the dosing. And that's really given patients so much more freedom. And I think probably the biggest disservice I do to myself is sometimes I educate the patients a little too much so they don't need my help anymore. But I'm okay with that too. There's plenty of patients out there, and I just want them to have the knowledge that, listen, you can adjust your dosing. You can, make the changes that you need, because we're not 20 milligrams of Paxil depressed every single day. Our pain is not 20 milligrams of oxycodone every single day. It changes. We should be able to adjust our dosing of our medication so that we can function better, or, get some more rest, or whatever it is that we need throughout that day as well. And they're really learning the way to go about doing that and helping themselves with it.
So how do your patients find you?
So my website is one of the easiest ways. I am currently managing a new dispensary in New Haven. So through the whole consulting thing, I've been consulting for businesses and dispensaries as well. And I got connected with another company that was putting in an application that we were fortunate enough to win. So I've been managing a dispensary in New Haven, Connecticut. So a lot of the patients that I'm dealing with are out of there.
And what is your website?
Website is mmconsultct.com.
Okay.
And my email is just b.essenter. It's ESSENTER @gmail.com. If anybody wants to contact me there, I'm always happy to help. Been really working on a lot of advocacy at the State House here in Connecticut, trying to get legalization approved, as that seems to be coming very soon, but we still have a lot of people that just don't have information that they need. So I'm just trying to make sure to provide them with as much accurate information as we can right now too. So I mean, those are really the main things that I've been working on. I mean, the advocacy and everything has really been a big thing, just because, like I said about, Oregon and, a lot of those states up there that are considering eliminating their medical program altogether in favor of adult use for tax purposes. They're going to need people like myself out there. So, once legalization comes through, it's just going to be, hopefully more opportunity for me as well. But I want to make sure that when it's done properly. It's done with proper oversight and testing, and making sure that, the reputation of our medical program is, followed through right into our adult use program and everything as well.
Yeah, certainly. One thing comes up a lot when I talk to people is a concern about, CBD or cannabis with regards to drug interactions, right? And so being a pharmacist, are there certain, I guess, conditions that require certain drugs that people should be more concerned about, or is there any generalizations there that you can provide?
Yeah, it's really more generalizations, I guess, than anything. CBD it does affect your CYP enzyme system. So there's a lot of medications that are also broken down by those same enzymes. Depending on the medications, they can end up allowing levels to build up higher. They can allow them to be, broken down faster and eliminated faster as well. So typically the groups that you're looking at are going to be some of your anti-epileptic drugs and stuff too. So Keppra, Onfi, and Depakote are three of the big ones there really for patients. And, we have so many people that, especially, those epileptic patients that just want to use CBD to get things under control, and, it's safe for kids and this and that. And absolutely, I think it's a great adjunct, but you definitely want to make sure that your doctors are aware, and you want to make sure that obviously we have all the third-party testing and everything too, to make sure there's no other contaminants of any sort that are affecting your other medications. Some of the other things, some of your blood thinners can be affected by CBD as well. Not overly significant, but it's something that you want to be aware of. Typically, Coumadin is the biggest one there. I know most doctors are trying to get away from Coumadin, using it very sparingly just because of its, very difficult and small therapeutic range that they have. And they do start a lot of patients out on that. So if you're using CBD, you want to make sure that, your doctors are aware, especially if anything is changing there. But a lot of times, patients have been using it anyway, whether it's cannabis, whether it's just CBD, whatever happens there. And because of the safety profile of it in general, it's really something that the doctors can be aware of just through blood testing and everything as they're starting medications, adjusting dosing of medications. I would say one of my biggest concerns is when patients start either cannabis or CBD or whatever, they think they can just stop all their other medications and that's going to be, okay. And that is the absolute wrong thing to do. You want to make sure you're working with your doctors, that you're slowly adjusting dosages, that you're tolerating everything well. But you want to get stable with your CBD or your cannabis first before you go adjusting any other medications. And if the doctor is aware that you're going to be adding CBD or, entering a medical cannabis program, then, they need to be aware so that they can monitor your blood work, make sure that you're not having any additional side effects, whether it's the medication or the cannabis. But it's, typically a lot of our patients have used cannabis for a while before they, came to the dispensary anyway. So, a lot of the times that they're using these medications, the doctors have adjusted for it without even knowing. The patients were already using it, didn't disclose that information to the doctor, and the doctor was dosing accordingly. And if they're doing their blood testing and everything as they should and as appropriate,
right, makes sense.
They should be able to, adjust accordingly and see those trends.
Oh, that makes total sense. Thank you for sharing that. What do you, in terms of patients and trends, right? What do you typically see? I mean, I know the cannabis and CBD both kind of span the gamut of all kinds of things they could help with, but anything that just overwhelms you in terms of like, it's so frequent that surprises you?
Surprising? I don't know if I'd say anything's really surprising at this point. I
Yeah.
think the biggest surprise to me, honestly, was the amount, and more a generalization in the beginning, but it was more the amount of people that are so uncontrolled on their typical prescription medications. And that's regardless of whether they're suffering from PTSD, they're going through cancer and chemo, they're epileptic, they're whatever the case may be they're just not controlled well on their prescription medications. They are having significant side effects. It's not doing what they need it to do. Whatever, or they're just bouncing around from medication to medication to medication, and they just don't know what's going on. So I feel like, the bigger thing there is that they're able to start to get that consistency from their medication. They get a little bit more stability, and that is, cancer patients, number one, trying to deal with the pain of the chemo, the nausea, the vomiting. I think that's our number one, because people see CBD and cannabis as really being best for those type of things anyway. Just recently in Connecticut, we approved chronic pain, and I think the chronic pain is probably going to be our biggest one, as we're seeing most everywhere. Just because patients want other options. They're so sick and tired of the opiates and the benzos and just walking around in a fog all of the time, and it's not working, and they know they're addicted, and they can't get what they need when they need it. And their family wants them off of it for one reason or another. So, I'd say those are the biggest things. A lot of Parkinson's patients have a ton of benefit from it too, especially early onset. That are younger with just some tremors and stuff like that are just, embarrassed at the young age to have those kind of things.
Right.
Those are the people that I would say we see the majority of, the ones that are just kind of fed up with your typical Western medication and healthcare system. And they want to be more active participants in their life. They don't want to be comatose and flatlined and everything anymore. They want to feel things. They want to, go to the grocery store and be able to finish a trip or whatever. Simple things, nothing extreme. They're not looking to go run a marathon or anything. They just want to live.
Right. Oh, that's great. And thank you again for your passion for what's going on and what you're doing and your focus. What's next for you? What's exciting that you're looking forward to in 2021?
Well, right now, the dispensary that I'm at, we're actually working with one of our producers in Yale on a study. There's a couple others that we're supposed to be working on in the next couple of years too here, that they're starting to, really use more specific cannabinoid, but within more full spectrum stuff. With some of the producers here in Connecticut, they've really gotten very scientific with it, and just seeing a lot of what they're doing is really got me excited. They're very interested in whole plant, full spectrum, cannabis, but they also have these, individual cannabinoids that they're doing, that they're lab testing everything right there in the facilities. So a lot of that is really what's been exciting for me, is just being involved in the science and the research end of things. Personally, just being an advocate and helping with the legalization process here in Connecticut as well. And educating our legislators and everything. Those are some of the things that I really enjoy doing. And I've been participating with the International Cannabis Pharmacist Association. We have a conference that we're doing annually now too, just to help educate other pharmacists, get them an idea as to what's going on. I know in Connecticut, when they took cannabis and they made Schedule 2 in Connecticut. So they completely descheduled it. What that means is that doctors and pharmacists can now see that patients are using medical marijuana when they look at their prescription monitoring program and see what other medications they've picked up. So you have pharmacists that I'm getting calls from a lot of other colleagues and school friends and everything. What do I do about these patients that are asking me about CBD and about, how their medical marijuana is going, and how do I adjust, and what do I talk to the doctors about and everything? So I found a lot of those conversations have been happening because of all of this too, and I think that's really exciting, is just being able to educate my peers in ways that there is no schooling for. There's minimal CEs for and everything too.
Totally.
And even at that, to get good information is not easy. There's a lot of either misinformation or old information, which old could mean 2 weeks ago in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's one of the biggest things I tell them too is, look, this is what I know today. It could be very different tomorrow. So please just take it all with a grain of salt and understand that we are learning as we go. We've never been in a situation like this in medicine. So, actively studying while we are, prescribing and everything too, or certifying and dispensing. So, I think those are some of the more exciting ends of things right now, and where I'm really looking forward to the direction that the industry's heading.
Okay. Well, thank you. And one last thing, it just came up to mind. Any side effects? Like, do you see anybody that has side effects with CBD or cannabis that beyond getting high, right? I mean, that's the obvious one, but anyone that anything people should be looking out for there?
Not really. CBD is pretty innocuous as far as side effects are concerned. At high doses, it can get more sedating and drowsy. And by high doses, we're talking 300 milligrams and up. If people are really interested in side effects on CBD, one of the best resources is just looking up the drug information on Epidiolex. They actually did all of the studies and everything there. But part of my concern with that is, they always list the diarrhea and the nausea and the vomiting, just because a lot of people had that to begin with. It wasn't necessarily a part of the medication itself. It is very good for those things. So you do have to take some of those with a grain of salt as well.
Well, and as you said, you get very high doses in those trials as
Right.
well, which most people don't typically need.
Exactly. And, your typical dose of CBD is going to be probably 15 to 30 milligrams, not 300 milligrams. So, you don't have those sedating effects or anything from your CBD. So, and one of the great things about CBD that we explain to patients all the time is it really can help with the intoxicating effects of THC. So, one of the side effects of CBD is decreasing that intoxicating effect of THC. So, having them together is really, you go back to whole plant and decreasing side effects by having CBD with your THC. So you don't, it's still possible to get to that uncomfortable high place with THC and CBD together. You're still going to feel THC at some point or another, but that CBD can really help to mitigate that uncomfortable feeling, that high, that, oh, I don't want to be here, I don't have control or whatever. So, that's typically it. But otherwise, your side effects are just, too much is what's going to cause the paranoia with THC and cause that uncomfortable feeling. Edibles are 9 out of 10 times what's going to lead people down that path as well, just because they take so long to kick in. Somebody's used to smoking, it's, that's almost immediate. This is, an hour or more before it might kick in. So, oh, I don't feel anything, take more. Oh, I don't feel anything, take more. Before you know it, these are the kids that are looking to jump off a bridge because they're paranoid and losing their mind and their, skin's crawling and everything else. So just being aware of your dosing and being conscious of how you're reacting, making sure you're not, dosing again before you should be, just because you think you can handle it. Listen to your medical professionals in that sense. It's not going to do you any good to just go blasting through your tolerance or your, where that comfort level is. One of the ways we always deal with it, and what I always explain to my patients, is it's very possible that you get high before you get the relief you're looking for. That's okay. That's to be expected a lot of times when dealing with this. It just means we have to peel it back a little bit, work on a little bit of tolerance, and then we will slowly progress through that. But, this is not a miracle drug, just like opiates are not, and a lot of the other ones. It's a process, and it's not easy to get to that relief, but I promise you we can keep you functional while doing it if you're willing to go on that path with me.
Well, that's great perspective, Bryan. Thank you so much for your time today, and really great to meet you. And I really appreciate and respect all the work that you're doing and helping people out. So it's with great intentions, and good luck to you as you continue forward.
Thank you so much. I actually appreciate it for having me.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Always brought to you by Magic Immuna Tea, available at packedwithlife.com. A mushroom tea that tastes great. Try it. Magic Immuna Tea. packedwithlife.com.